everyone. Today we have Namita Gupta with us. She's the founder of Ayurveda and she's doing a lot of work in curbing air pollution. So Ayurveda is an air pollution app to help monitor air quality in the city and even in your homes. And this ultimately helps us to take better care of our health and of our loved ones. So I've got a few questions for Namita. So hi Namita.
Hi.
Namita, so my first question to you is that as the air pollution is building up and we are hearing a lot about PM 2.5 and PM 10, these are the new terms that have been introduced. So just wanted to know, what are these terms, how a person can understand these terms in a normal language?
Sure. So PM 2.5 basically means particulate matter, which is smaller than 2.5 microns. So these are really tiny particles in the air which are released during combustion or from dust, right? And these particles basically they go into your nose and then into your lungs and into your bloodstream. And because these particles are so tiny, it's like literally 1/8 of a single hair, right? They're so small that the protection that is built into your nose to protect against the dust, right, is not able to protect with respect to PM 2.5. So these particles just go into your system and then they get settled on your lungs and they go into the bloodstream and they cause inflammation and they cause all sorts of issues like, they lead to respiratory issues, asthma, they're really dangerous for people who have heart issues. They can lead to heart attacks, and for smaller children actually, they're known to, get directly into your brain from your nasal passages as well, and they can lead to development issues, brain development issues.
Okay. So can you tell us a little more about the term air quality index? And as far as I understand, PM 2.5 is a part of that. So can you explain a bit more to us about that?
So air quality index is basically an index which is created by the governments in different countries to map the health impact of a particular pollutant, right? So for example, if you look at PM 2.5, what the government does is they have, this is the Indian AQI, right? Actually, every country has its own AQI, which not a lot of people actually know. US has its own US AQI, China has Chinese AQI, Singapore has PSI, India has Indian AQI, right? So according to Indian AQI, 0 to 30 PM 2.5 is considered good, right? So 0 to 30 basically maps to 0 to 50 AQI. Similarly, every range of PM 2.5 is mapped to an AQI number. Now, the government actually measures more than one parameter, right? So they measure PM 2.5, PM 10, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, right? So there are a whole bunch of parameters that the government monitors, and they have an AQI grid like this for each such parameter, right? So at any time, what you'll get is an AQI of PM 2.5, AQI of PM 10, AQI of sulfur dioxide, AQI of nitrogen dioxide, and then the maximum of all the AQIs basically corresponds to the final AQI. So a simple way to understand AQI is it's basically a mapping from a pollutant concentration, which is in micrograms per cubic meter, to its health impact. And it's a standardized format, so you can remember that 0 to 50 AQI is good, 50 to 100 is satisfactory, and so on.
Namita, now when we're talking about the air quality index, I would like to know that is there any difference between the air quality which is indoors and outdoors? Because it is normally said that stay indoor, it will help you to safeguard from air pollution. What is your take on this?
So, right now, given the really poor air quality in the NCR region, outdoor air quality is definitely worse than indoor air quality, but however not by much, right? What you usually see is that if the outdoor air quality is 400 micrograms per cubic meter, inside will be more like 300 micrograms per cubic meter. So indoors is better, but it's not good, right? It's the indoor air quality is severely affected by the outdoor air quality. Now sometimes actually indoor air quality can be worse than outdoor air quality. There are various sources of particulate matter and other pollution and VOCs, right, which can be generated indoors, like for example cooking or certain detergents you use, or cleaning insides, right, or spraying, room fresheners. If you have carpets or curtains, then a lot of dust can get collected in those, and you can have very high PM 2.5 indoors. So indoor PM 2.5 is actually not always better than PM2.5 outdoors. However, in conditions right now where the level of pollution are so bad outside, indoors is slightly better, and that's why people are told to stay indoors.
Okay.
It's sort of the easiest way to protect yourself, relatively.
So, as a layman, we could not find much difference between the indoors and the outdoors, and indoors is considered better. What is the best way, or do these air monitors, they can help us to know that what is the quality of air inside and what is the quality of air outside?
Sure. So this is why we sort of created this AirWeather app, and a lot of this data is available online as well. So you can, nowadays on apps see what the data is outdoors, right? A lot of government monitors are set up. At AirWeather, we have actually set up several more monitors around the city where no data is available. So for example, right now, right, you can see that, the outdoor data is about 203 PM2.5, right, which is the closest station. And here is a monitor that's measuring indoor air quality, and what you're seeing is it's not very different right now. Actually, inside it is, it's approximately 200, very similar to outdoors right now over here. But basically, these personal monitors, and this is also an AirWeather monitor, but these personal monitors help you measure air quality indoors, so that you're not just playing a guessing game, assuming that indoor air quality is actually better than outdoor, which may not be, right, depending on the leakage indoors. Also, a lot of people are putting purifiers nowadays indoors to sort of protect themselves, right? But purifiers may not always work in every room, right, depending on the leakage, the size of the room, the CADR. So what the monitors help you understand is that, are your purifiers actually working indoors? And a lot of times they need filter changes, right? So basically, the only way you really know what you're breathing inside is by being able to monitor and measure it.
Okay. So as we have started talking about air purifiers, I just wanted to know that, is one air purifier good enough for a household? What are the important things that a person should take care of while buying an air purifier for their home?
Sure. So actually you need purifiers in every room that you are in. Which purifier will work depends a lot on your room size. It depends upon the amount of leakage that you have in your room. So when you're buying a purifier, there are a few things that you should keep in mind. One, you should make sure it has a HEPA filter and a pre-filter, right? The HEPA filter is what actually protects you against PM2.5, and the pre-filter basically catches the bigger particles. Otherwise, if you don't have pre-filter, then your HEPA filter will get clogged very quickly, and as a result of which the life of the HEPA filter will be very less. So that's sort of the first thing you should look out for. The second thing you want to look out for is CADR. CADR is basically the clean air delivery rate of a purifier, and that basically tells you its ability to clean a room, right? Now AHAM, which is the Association of Home Appliances, they have basically created a formula to determine the size of the room based on the CADR of the purifier. So according to them, for example, a 200 square feet room, you should have a CADR of at least 134. But AHAM has created this formula based on much lower air pollution levels than Delhi has. So I actually tell people to double that. So for a 200 square feet room, I would say that you should have at least 200 CADR to be able to clean it properly. So that's CADR. The third big thing that you should look for when buying a purifier is the ability to easily find replacement filters. These purifiers, you normally have to change filters every few months, 2 to 3 months. You have to change the HEPA filter, and sometimes when the pollution is so bad, like it is right now, like I literally had to change my filters in 2 weeks. So being able to find replacement filters, like a lot of time people will go to Singapore or somewhere else and go and buy these purifiers, but then you're sort of stuck with the purifier where you can't find replacement filters. So be very clear that you can actually get replacement filters when you buy a purifier.
Okay, so that is a very good point, that we actually didn't know that buying an air purifier is one thing, but looking for filters is another thing that we should be very careful about.
Absolutely, because you don't want to keep buying new purifiers every few months.
Yeah. Okay. So now another thing, now that was about indoors. If we talk about outdoors, so what do you suggest about the anti-pollution masks? So what is the best way to select an anti-pollution mask?
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of masks. I think, in these pollution levels, everyone outside should be wearing a mask. In fact, it hurts me when I see small children and elderly outside in this level of pollution not wearing a mask and protecting themselves. So really the way you have to think about a mask is it's a purifier, right, that is attached to your face, right? It's a filter which is filtering the air that is coming from inside. Now the first thing you have to be very careful about is you have to pick a N95 or N99 mask. If you pick a surgical mask or the simple paper mask, they're just not going to help you because they don't protect against PM 2.5, right? So get a mask that is certified N95 or N99. N95 means it can protect you from 95% of PM 2.5, and N99 means it can protect you from 99% of PM 2.5. Second thing, you have to make sure that the mask is a good fitting on your face. If there's leakage on the sides, then it's basically not helping you at all because the air is coming in from the side. So you want to buy a mask which is tight fitting, and this is why I also recommend masks which have some sort of a tie, a strap or something in the back so you can tighten it. Because if you buy a mask which doesn't have anything to tighten it, then it's just going to, all the things will get loose. So getting a mask where you can just tighten it in the back and make sure it fits really well around your face is really important. The third thing I really recommend people on mask is to have a carbon dioxide valve, because you're breathing in and breathing out all the time, right? When you breathe in, you're basically getting filtered air, but when you breathe out, a lot of the carbon dioxide is just staying inside the mask. So some masks come with a carbon dioxide valve, and the way the valve works is that basically it opens up when you breathe out and it closes when you breathe in, right? So it basically releases the carbon dioxide that you're breathing out outside, right? Otherwise the levels of carbon dioxide that you start breathing inside the mask become very high, which again becomes a huge problem. So those are some of the things to keep in mind.
So what do you say when we have to use the mask for our kids? So can the kids also use the same N95 and N99 masks as the adults?
Yes, absolutely. You just have to make sure that you get a small size for children which can fit around their faces. And again, having a strap that you can tighten around their faces is very helpful. You want to make sure they're comfortable in the mask, so they're not feeling any sort of suffocation, which is very important. And I would not recommend masks for children lower than 3 years old, because I just worry about them not being able to communicate if they're feeling a little suffocated. But my children 3 and 7, they regularly wear masks, and I make sure that they wear masks when they're outdoors.
Okay. So, is there any guideline on when to change a mask, like in how many days or in hours? So when should we change the mask?
So there are different types of masks in the market. You have disposable masks, which you should actually just wear for a day or maybe like a few times and then throw away. But then there are masks which are actually repeat use, and you can use over a period of time. Some of these masks can be cleaned, some of them can't be cleaned. In general, there's no clear guideline on how long you can use these masks, but generally, if the mask starts smelling or you start feeling like there's it's just not hygienic at this point, it's time to replace the mask.
Okay. So any practical tips that you would like to give to our viewers regarding safeguarding themselves from air pollution or safeguarding their kids from pollution? Some simple practical tips that they can practice.
Sure. I think step one, you have to be monitoring air quality outside. What I've noticed is that air quality is not bad every day through the winter. There are good days and there are bad days. If you're actually tracking them, then you can make changes in your lifestyle to reduce your overall exposure. So if the air quality is really bad in the morning, don't go out for walks or exercise outside in the morning. Try to exercise indoors. If your kids, right, if it's really bad in the morning, make sure they wear masks to school in the school bus. Once they're indoors, they can take it off, but at least in the morning when they're traveling in the bus, try to make sure that they wear masks. Similarly, for playtime, right, try to not send them outdoors to play if the air quality is really bad in the evening. Usually 12 to 4 is sort of the best time of the day. So nowadays, of course, even 12 to 4 the air quality hasn't been improving, but on most normal days 12 to 4 is better than the rest of the day. So that's a good time to send the kids out to play, or to go out for a walk or exercise outdoors. But really try to make some small lifestyle changes so that you're reducing your overall exposure. And then I definitely recommend people wear masks when they're outdoors. I actually think that masks are really important both to protect people and also to create awareness about the problem. Because when you see a lot of people wearing masks, right, that's when other people also realize that there's a problem and they need to be protecting themselves. So I think outdoors, everybody, and a lot of masks are quite reasonable and cheap on the market. So that's sort of the cheap way of protecting yourself.
Okay. So any practical tips that you would like to give to our viewers regarding safeguarding themselves from air pollution or safeguarding their kids from pollution? Some simple practical tips that they can practice.
Sure. I think step one, you have to be monitoring air quality outside. What I've noticed is that air quality is not bad every day through the winter. There are good days and there are bad days. If you're actually tracking them, then you can make changes in your lifestyle to reduce your overall exposure. So if the air quality is really bad in the morning, don't go out for walks or exercise outside in the morning. Try to exercise indoors. If your kids, right, if it's really bad in the morning, make sure they wear masks to school in the school bus. Once they're indoors, they can take it off, but at least, in the morning when they're traveling in the bus, try to make sure that they wear masks. Similarly, for playtime, right, try to not send them outdoors to play if the air quality is really bad in the evening. Usually 12 to 4 is sort of the best time of the day. So, nowadays, of course, even 12 to 4, the air quality hasn't been improving, but on most normal days, 12 to 4 is better than the rest of the day. So that's a good time to send the kids out to play or, to go out for a walk or exercise outdoors. But really try to make some small lifestyle changes so that you're reducing your overall exposure. And then, I definitely recommend people wear masks when they're outdoors. I actually think that masks are really important both to protect people and also to create awareness about the problem. Because when you see a lot of people wearing masks, right, that's when other people also realize that there's a problem and they need to be protecting themselves. So I think outdoors, everybody, and a lot of masks are quite reasonable and cheap on the market. So that's sort of the cheap way of protecting yourself.
Okay. So can you give some advice on, we have been hearing a lot about using different things like take tulsi, take gourd. So can you tell us about these things a bit, how these ingredients, natural ingredients at home can actually help? Can they help?
Absolutely. I'm an asthmatic patient myself. And, while you can't really build immunity to particulate matter, you can eat foods which help build your immunity towards respiratory issues, right? In fact, even throughout the whole winter, I take tulsi in my water and actually helps soothe the throat quite a bit. A lot of people swear by it and they say they don't fall sick if they're having tulsi regularly. Similarly, jaggery, they say gourd is very healthy for you. So, I think a lot of these things have merit and, these are easy ways to sort of protect your respiratory health through the winter, especially if you're prone to it. Doesn't help you build immunity against pollution, but it does help make your body stronger against respiratory issues. So, yes, if, I don't have the full list and I'm not an expert, but these two things do help.
Okay. So thank you, Namita. Thanks for your expert advice. It was really good to hear a lot in depth about the masks, the air purifiers and the monitors. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All the best.